Are you serious? Are you serious? Wow, we have breaking news just now released that Russian President Vladimir Putin is going to be hosting a peace summit with the leaders of Israel and the Palestinian Authority. Palestinian President Netanyahu Abbas and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have tentatively agreed to conduct talks in Moscow aimed at ending their decades-old stalemate in the Middle East, according to Russian officials. Now, Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova, said there's no timetable that's been set for the meeting yet, but, quote, responding to the appeals of the Palestinians and Israelis, we confirmed our readiness to arrange a meeting in Moscow, according to Russia's TASS news agency. We are convinced that there is a need to resume the negotiations. Now, according to the Israeli Daily, they've reported that Russian President Vladimir Putin had sought to hold the meetings tomorrow. But Netanyahu, because, among other reasons, he did not know if Abbas was demanding something from Israel in return for the meeting. Abbas in the past has demanded conditions such as release of prisoners and or Israel freezing construction of settlements for the resumption of any talks. So Putin wanted to move now. He wanted to have a meeting tomorrow in Moscow with both of them. And Netanyahu said, no, hang on a second. I'm willing to meet, but just want to be sure there's no preconditions here. Okay? Now, the last direct talks was spearheaded by the United States Secretary of State John F. Kerry. And they began back in 2013, but they collapsed a year later. And you may remember, they agreed to meet. Kerry was there doing all kinds of meetings back and forth, not only with Netanyahu and Abbas, but he was going to Jordan, meeting with King Hussein. He would go, to different Egypt. He was meeting with different players in the area, and it was scheduled for 9 months, about the same amount of time it takes to birth a baby. They were willing to try to birth two nations. Very prophetic, though, and I'm going to show you that in the book of Genesis. Let me just read to you one verse. And a lot of folks were really, really studying this verse because they wondered if maybe this was a prophecy. We know it's a prophecy, but they were wondering if we were about ready to see it take place, a two-state solution. And that's what you're seeing here is Vladimir Putin is trying to create the two-state solution. And here's what the Bible said would happen. This is a prophecy alert. But in Genesis chapter 25, verse 23. Now, first of all, you have to understand that Rebekah is pregnant. She could never have a child. Now she's pregnant. She's going to be giving birth. And in verse 22, she's pregnant, the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? In other words, God, if it's your will that I have a child after all these years, then why am I having such problems with this pregnancy? And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Bible says, and the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And we know they were Jacob and Esau. And we know that Jacob the younger would be the leader, and Esau would have to serve his older brother. Well, 2 nations and 2 manner of people are in your womb. Now, we know there were 2 brothers, they were twins, but we've never seen this two-state solution, if you will, come to pass. Israel didn't even become a nation until 1948, And Esau, the descendants of Esau, have yet to get their nation. Now, some would argue that and say, wait a minute, most of the Palestinians really belong in Jordan, and that there is a nation called Jordan. That's where they really should be, and that would be the two nations. And so that is one theory. The one thing we know for sure is that we're witnessing now the potential of a formation of a two-state solution within the territory of the Holy Land there in Israel. Now that the United States has failed to pull it off, Vladimir Putin is stepping into the arena. And the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu has agreed to meet, no date set, but he's agreed as long as there's no preconditions. Now in June of this year, France even made an indirect attempt at starting peace talks. Diplomats from the United Nations, the Arab League, and 20 countries, there was about 20 countries in all, sent representatives to Paris, where French President François Hollande said threats posed by regional wars in the Middle East brought urgency to the initiative. And John F. Kerry and the United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon were among those attending. So this meeting took place in France. Now, it was in June of this year. Now, I was in Jerusalem in June of this year when that meeting was happening. And I actually was at the Knesset meeting with Knesset member Rabbi Yehuda Glick in his office. And I brought up the fact that in Paris, France, 20 nations were there, from the Arab League, from the United Nations representatives, Ban Ki-moon was there, John F. Kerry was there, and they were discussing a resolution to be brought to the United Nations this fall of a potential forced two-state solution upon Israel. And I told Yehuda Glick, I said, they're doing it right now. And he got animated and slammed the table and said, I don't want to hear it. No two-state solution. Matter of fact, the interview, the interview I did with him in the Knesset will be airing on my Coming Apocalypse television show in 2 weeks. Not this weekend, but next weekend on Friday night. Let's see what that date will be. What is today? The 8th. Tomorrow's the 9th. So on Friday night, September 16th, an exclusive interview from the office of Rabbi Yehuda Glick in the Knesset. No one has ever done a television interview in his office, which of course is in a very secured location in the Knesset. It was quite an ordeal to even be in there, and I had to go through all kinds of security checks and things that you have to do. It was really quite extraordinary. Here's the deal. I'm in his office, and we talk about this exact situation that's now breaking in the news right now. And so I believe they still may try to force this thing, or at least bring it up this year at the United Nations. But let me read on. Netanyahu and Abbas were not invited to the preliminary discussions in Paris. And I told that to Glick. I said, look, you guys or the Palestinians don't have a seat at the table. He didn't want to hear about it. He said, people talk. So he was, and he's a good friend of mine, but when I'm interviewing him, I'm saying, look, you have to understand, you're leading the charge to build the third temple on the Temple Mount. As an evangelical pastor, that is huge biblical prophecy about to be fulfilled if and when it's done. And even the Antichrist eventually goes into that very temple that you are pushing to build. And you're going to do it because the Bible says you are. It's in Daniel 9:27. It's in Matthew 24:15. It's in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, and Paul explains to us what it is. And it's even, the blueprints are even drawn out by John in Revelation 11. And the temple being built, what brings on the two witnesses. I mean, we know the Bible. And I said, they're trying to force a two-state solution on you. And with that, my opinion is this, that then the only way, if Israel sees that they're going to be forced and have to split some of the land, the Gaza Strip, maybe the West Bank, maybe a 10%, a little bit of East Jerusalem, if Israel is forced into a two-state solution, then Israel's going to want something in return. And I have a real strong feeling that would be the right to build the third temple. So keep this all in mind. Russia now playing a role. Russia may have the hook in the jaw. We're going to keep a close eye. Remember, Russia and Iran are sitting on the doorstep of Israel right now in Syria with armies. All right? So there's a lot of pressure. And if I'm Netanyahu, you feel like you don't know. Do you have a friend in Obama? So you're wondering, who's the next president? If it's Hillary Clinton, you really feel like you might be twisting in the wind, and you may have to do a deal using the Russians. If it's Trump, you may back off and say, look, we got time here. We've got a strong ally now, and we're gonna pull away. So there's a lot going on the next few months in this lame duck's end of the Obama presidency. Prophecy is moving, folks. It is moving at an unbelievable speed. Something biblical is going on with the signs of the second coming of Christ. I'm going to be discussing this in detail today in my live broadcast. Starts at 12 noon Eastern. That's 12 noon Eastern at my website at www.paulbegleyprophecy.com. Also live at Roku satellite television. Also on new live stream. Also on Blog Talk Radio. Also on, if you have the Paul Begley Prophecy app, you can listen to it or watch it live on your cell phones. Just go to the Apple Store and download it for free, or go to the Google Plus Store and download it for free on your phones. It's the Paul Begley Prophecy app. Or watch it live right here on this YouTube channel. One thing's for sure, give your life to Jesus Christ. We are living, without question, in the most prophetic times in history. We've come to the end. Are you saved?